Hello there, and welcome to episode 3 of the Intellectual Tea Party podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Koch, and I'll be flying solo today. And along with that experimentation, I'm also trying out another thing that's new, and I'm filming this podcasting as it's going on. So if you don't want to just listen to my sultry voice, you can also check out the rest of the goods online at youtube.com/intellectual tea party, or you can go to facebook.com/intellectual tea party. You can get the link for that video there, and I appreciate you listening. The reason that I'm doing this podcast by myself today is that the month of June is coming to a close, and there was some really interesting motion pictures released in the month, and I've just been so busy I haven't had time to review them, but I do not want the month to pass without getting a chance to speak my mind about some of them. And so I just, and I want to test out some of this equipment, so here we go. I'm just going to fly solo today. But before we get into the three reviews, speaking of which, the three movies that I'm going to be talking about today are A24's Hereditary, Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2, and Universal Studios' Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. So you'll hear my in-depth reactions to the three of those films a little bit later. But first, I'm going to get into the big news of the week from film. This is an all-film podcast today. So let's start out with some news. Today, it was a big bomb drop today. We learned more about DC Comics' subscription service that are coming to compete with Disney's upcoming Netflix-style service. And the service is called DC Universe. And it not only will it have old films, Batman, Superman from the 80s, 70s, and all classic films like that, and you're getting animated series of DC Comics, Justice League, Batman, the animated series, all that good stuff. And we're getting new content. You're getting a Young Justice Season 3 finally, and then in live action realm, we're getting Titans live action series, which looks pretty interesting. Hopefully they don't drop the ball on that, but generally speaking, most of the DC Comics live action shows are pretty decent as far as entertainment value goes. So they're doing Titans live action, they're doing a live action Doom Patrol, and they're doing a live action Swamp Thing. The latter of those two series will premiere later on next year on the service. And they'll also be rounding out with a animated Harley Quinn show, which just makes all the sense in the world. Like, that's just a no-brainer. Like, FX should have picked up that Donald Glover Deadpool series, which is dead now, unfortunately. But hopefully DC's got some good stuff coming down the pipeline. God knows they need it. But interesting thing about the service is, along with this video content, there's more to it. You also get access to digital comics from DC Comics, be it classic, OG appearances, or like more newer things like Jeff Johns' Justice League run in the beginning stages of the 2000s and stuff like that. So you have access to comics, TV shows, movies, and a social media platform as well incorporated into the application, where you can link up with other fans of DC Comics. So I'm kind of looking forward to this service. I will definitely check it out depending on the price point, but it could be great. I mean, DC makes the best animated movies, so that already, if they're going to take those off of other streaming services and put that on their own, I mean, that'll be worth it in itself. It's just how long they sustain subscribers without having content vastly getting reinstated. But I think the integration of having digital comics as well is really interesting, and I think that'll really put it over the edge as far as like intrigue for me goes. But if you want to check out, be a beta tester for this service, you can sign up. Go to dcuniverse.com. You can check it out. Sign up to be a beta tester when they roll out that a little bit later this summer. And they'll open up the streaming service to the general public later on this year. But you can test it out later this summer. Go online today. Sign up. I did so as well. Transitioning from DC to some Marvel news, but it's kind of for both. They've got some casting for Sony's upcoming Morbius the Living Vampire Spider-Man spin-off movie. and it's going to be starring Jared Leto of Damaged Joker fame, which is, I mean, I get it, but I don't know. I really wish I would have liked to see somebody else take it. I feel like we're getting overdosed on Jared Leto lately. And not only that, but I don't know. I thought they'd go a more ethnic route with the casting, and then that might just be. I'm not too familiar with the comics of Morbius, but my mind goes back to the early '90s Spider-Man cartoon series, and it had like a very like Spaniard type ethnicity to Morbius in that, and I think that would have been something cool to explore. You know, we need more Latino heroes out there. So I thought that could have been interesting. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if the movie actually gets made with Jared Leto. God knows what could happen between now and then production. God knows what could happen with that, man. Transitioning onward from that, we've got Star Wars news again. The backlash from the Solo box office bombing is coming in, and now word on the street is that Star Wars standalone and spin-off films are being put on hold for the time being. That means Obi-Wan movie, that means Boba Fett, various other spin-offs, which, I don't know, I'd take that with a grain of salt. Obi-Wan movie would be money in the bank. Like, you don't want to say no to that. Like, that would work on so many levels, because you have people who are OG fans who don't like the new trilogy, and they're bitching about that, causing an uproar. Then they get some sort of familiarity, but the ironic thing is that those same people hated the prequel trilogy. And I don't know, I think the quality of the new trilogy is 1,000 times better than the prequels, but like, you know, throw Ewan McGregor in the fucking Obi-Wan suit, man, you got money in the bank right there. Make that movie. And on the first episode of this podcast, I was talking about James Mangold getting tapped to be the writer/director of the Boba Fett movie. And so I hope that still comes to fruition. I think this is kind of getting blown out of proportion. So I think the spinoffs will still come. They'll just have to focus a little bit more on marketing and maybe, you know, not have 2 Star Wars movies come out within like a 5-month period of each other. That was kind of a silly choice, but if you want to hear my thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars film, you can check out the first episode of the Intellectual Tea Party podcast right here. Check it out. If you didn't listen to it, I've got a lot of points to make on that, a lot of feelings, so if you're interested, go check it out, because I had a lot to say about it. Interestingly enough, Solo was written by legendary screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark, with his son, John. So, John and Lawrence Kasdan wrote Solo, and now John Kasdan, his son, has also been tapped to write Indiana Jones 5, taking over for the screenwriter who wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So I don't know, how did the man who wrote Indy 4 get hired to write Indy 5 when Indy 4 was such a piece OS? And then Lucasfilm is upset about the reaction to Solo, and they're going to hire the writer of Solo to write another Indiana Jones movie, so I don't really know where they're going with that in this situation. But that's the news we have on deck right now in Geekdom in the film world, and from here on, let's go to the reviews. Alright, so let's get into the first film I saw in June, and that was A24's Hereditary. The hype on this movie was insane. Going up, you see reviews and quotes saying this is the greatest horror movie of the century. It's terrifying. It'll scare the bejesus out of you. Keep going on. And the trailers were terrifying. They were so scary. I was getting anxiety just thinking about watching this movie. But a little bit of insight is I am a person who is impossible. It's so hard. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here, but it's like I cannot be scared watching a film. I've watched many, many horror movies. My wife is obsessed with horror movies. She loves them. It's her favorite genre. But I cannot for the life of me get scared by a film. It just cannot happen. So at the most, the most scared I'll ever get is like a jump here and there. I think in recent memory, the closest I've gotten to being scared from a film was probably Insidious, the original one. which that and the original Conjuring, I had a really James Wan, just a fantastic horror filmmaker, and I think that those movies they really got to me. I didn't get scared, but like I definitely, felt tense at things. So that's pretty much the gist of where I go when it comes to horror films. And Hereditary, unfortunately, was no different for me. It did not really scare me per se, but it was extremely creepy and masterfully made. I love horror movies that are made with the art house tinge to it. And I think they just are visually stunning because you can do a lot of really crafty things visually with horror films. It's just a matter of like, I just see the tricks coming from a mile away. So it's really hard for me to get scared. And I just know it's a movie. I mean, I've worked on movies, so I just know what's going to happen before it happens. So I can't get scared, but I fucking love this movie. It is so good. The more and more that it just condenses in my head, the more I think about this film, it's just like mind-blowing how masterfully put together it is. It stars Toni Collette, who's always amazing, and Alex Wolff, who's this young guy. He's been hitting it out of the park a lot lately. I mean, he had a small role in as the star of the Dwayne Johnson live-action version in the new Jumanji movie, but he's been in, he played the Boston Marathon bomber in what was that Marky Mark movie? Patriots Day. He was really great in that, and I've seen him in a number of films lately, and he was just a really talented young man, and I guess he went method for this role, and it's really screwed with him, but I think it played because he put in a fantastic performance, and I know it's a horror movie, but he shouldn't be, left out on the list at the end of the year of, like, fantastic performances that deserve recognition, so shout out to Alex Wolff, man. You're really killing it out there, man. The director of this movie is actually first time feature film director. His name is Ari Aster, and this dude is going places. He is extremely talented. He describes this film himself as a movie about a family going to hell. I'm usually all about spoiler-filled reviews, but when it comes to this particular picture, I don't want to get into spoiler territory because I know a lot of people still haven't had a chance to see it, and really the movie that's presented it's not misleading marketing per se. You get what you see in the trailers, but it's also not what you're expecting at all. Going back to the hype train on this, I do love the shit out of it. I just don't think it's that terrifying, but this has kind of happened a lot. Happens a lot with A24 films in particular as well. They had The Witch and It Comes at Night, which are two movies that had a ton of hype going out before they came out, and I went to them on opening night rather, and saw them with a big crowd, and both of those movies, the movie ended and the whole audience was just vastly disappointed. Like, I just heard groans and mumbles and people talking about those movies. I wasn't into The Witch. I thought it was super overhyped. It was beautifully made, but it just was not what I was hoping for, and I think that hype train just went way overboard. It Comes at Night, I wouldn't even count as a horror movie. That was just mismarketed like crazy, but entertaining nonetheless. But this one, I think, is A24's like big time horror hit masterpiece, if you will. This is a movie that's going to be talked about for many, many years. I don't want to talk about it, but it's just a fantastic film. It's creepy as shit. It's got wonderful actors. Oh, Ann Dowd, who plays Aunt Lydia on The Handmaid's Tale. She's got a role. She's got a scene-stealing role in this movie, man. She comes out of nowhere, and she brings it, man. That woman terrifies the shit out of me. Every time hearing her voice, like, makes my skin sliver just seeing her, man. Just after watching that show, and now after watching this movie, man, she's a creepy bitch. Stay away from Ann Dowd, man. She's too good at that. She's like the evil Kathy Bates. Whew. But fantastic performances all the way around. Great direction, amazing cinematography. It plays around with a lot of tropes that we've seen in things before, but it does them in a very artful way. Very minor spoilers here, but I will say that if you put a naked white man on camera, even just for a split second, that shit is terrifying. Just penises in the woods. There is nothing more scary than that, man. That's a money in the bank trick right there, dude. Just flashes of naked white dudes, fat naked white dudes. That's all you need to scare some people. If I weren't wearing clothes in this video right now, you would all be very, very terrified. But luckily, I will not do that to you. But yeah, fat, white, naked dudes, very scary. Always a plus to do that. There's lots of great practical effects in this film. It's more of like a. It's not a spoiler. It's more of like a psychological slash, witch-esque type horror film. But definitely check out Hereditary if you haven't seen it. Highly recommend. Maybe lower your expectations a little bit when it comes to the fact of like how terrified you're gonna get. It's got some scares to it, but it's just a damn good movie. So definitely check out Hereditary if you haven't already. It's A24's best horror movie and arguably they've made a ton of great movies, but it could be one of their best, if not the best film they've ever put out. I enjoy the shit out of this movie. I'll watch it the rest of my days. Very intriguing. Check it out. Do so. All right, let's talk about Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2. It has been 14 years since the original Incredibles came out, and Brad Bird has returned with this series that he started back then, and let me tell you, it is worth the wait. It was a fantastic picture. I mean, it's in the title, man. It's incredible. It is just a great, great movie and a fantastic sequel. Holy shit, man. More sequels should be like this. It's just got everything you love about the original. It's a continuation. The great thing about this movie is it takes place literally seconds after the original ends, and there's just not enough movies where you get to see what happens with the illustrious bombshell ending. Like in this one, I've been it's been 14 years. I've always wanted to see what happens when the Underminer comes out of the ground and attacks the city like that, and you actually get to see the whole thing play out in this movie, and it's fantastic. And just over the moon happy about how this film turned out. It doesn't have the same emotional pull per se that the first one does. It doesn't tug at the heartstrings as much, but it's got improvements all across the board. I rewatched the original Incredibles right before seeing Incredibles 2, just to refresher or whatnot, and just nostalgia's sake. Love nostalgia. Always got the glasses on. But the original Incredibles on Blu-ray, it looks amazing. It still looks great to this day. You go see Incredibles 2, man, it blows it out of the park. The detail is insane. You could see the fibers on the suits. I love this movie. It's so good. It's kind of a given. I mean, I haven't been stoked at the thought process of Pixar putting out more and more sequels all the time. I think it's a joke that they're bringing out Toy Story 4 next year. But, I mean, that was a perfect trilogy, so you really don't want to mess with a perfect thing. But at the same time, they could surprise me. I don't know. I mean, I never watched the sequels to Cars. The first one's decent enough for me. I don't dislike it as much as the majority of the internet seems to. Cars 2 looked terrible. Cars 3 looked like, I don't even know. I don't even remember what that movie was about. But I know the second one had to do with being like a James Bond-esque spy thriller starring Cars and Larry the Cable Guy. So I wasn't going to watch that. So I didn't see the sequels to that. Finding Dory was a letdown. Once you thought processed the film afterwards, when I initially saw it, I was like, oh, it was alright, it was decent, it was good, it was in the Nemo universe, whatever. I thought about it more, I was like, that movie ended with fucking Dory and an octopus driving a semi-truck. That's insane. That's not inventive filmmaking, that's a cash grab. This movie is not a cash grab. Well, it is a cash grab, but it's Very well made, super entertaining. You finally get to see Jack's powers in action. He's got, well, spoiler alert, he's got a lot of them. He's got a lot of powers. He's got 18 total. You can see him shoot lasers out of his eyes and turn into the demon thing like in the first movie. But we see more and more powers from him in this one. He can duplicate himself. This just goes on and on. It's so good. The Elastigirl gets the star in this movie. She's the forefront hero. They're trying to bring the supers back. Bob Odenkirk, Saul Goodman in the house. He's trying to bring the supers back to the forefront and make them legal again. And I don't think the twists and turns of the stories were that outrageous. They're kind of they're tropes, That's just kind of how it is with superheroes. But going back to the emotional pull, it wasn't quite the same because the nature of it, but it's highly entertaining. We get to see more Frozone in this movie, which I'm excited about because I love Frozone. And when I rewatched the original, I realized that he really isn't in the movie that much. But he's get a lot more Frozone in this one. It's just jam-packed with action. There's some really cool visuals. There's like a LSD type, like epileptic trip in this movie, which I guess like 2 weeks later Disney started putting disclaimers in front of the movie for people with epilepsy because it's some really crazy shit. Like you will go into seizures if you have epilepsy and you go into this movie because, man, it's got some crazy visuals. Animation's brilliant, voice acting's brilliant, all across the board. I mean, Brad Bird took a slight, transition. He did Incredibles, and then he did Ratatouille, and then he went to live action of the wonderful Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol and the very not wonderful Tomorrowland. That movie was a bore fest, and I barely remember its existence. The only reason I remember it is how disappointed I was in it. So Tomorrowland, no bueno, but he's made up for it with his return to animation, and this movie it's so good. I mean, I'm not going to get into detail. You don't need detail. I'm sure you've already seen it. Now I'm just mumbling at this point. But, on a side note, there's been a lot of talk about Pixar, and it's some serious shit, Apparently they have a very sexist work environment, which was brought on by legendary John Lasseter, who was revealed last year to have sexual assault allegations, or sexual misconduct, rather. I guess he's extremely touchy-feely with people and would just harass women like no end. So he's leaving Pixar and Disney Animation at the end of this year. Thank God. Get him out of there. Piece of shit, and treat women like that. I mean, he's made some classic films, and that's a bummer. And it's sad to know that a studio that puts out film that touches so many people on an emotional level could act that way. But I've read several interviews with female artists from Pixar, and famously Rashida Jones was one of the co-writers on Toy Story 4, and she left the company citing sexist environments and not room for growth for women. So I hope this year Pixar gets their shit together, brings in more female directors, which is important, of course. But, I mean, the product itself has been really good. Continue that streak, but we need more original ideas. We don't need sequels for everything. Let's see some more original films. This is a fantastic sequel. If you can make more films like this, apparently Pete Docter's taking over. He made Inside Out, and my mind escaping. Maybe Up. He made 2 really good Pixar movies. I know that. So he's going to take over as the lead for Pixar Animation, and I don't remember the woman who's taken over Disney Animation, but they've got some new people in house. So I'm a big time Disney fan, bro. I got Mickey Mouse right there. I love Disney. I love Pixar. I hope they get their shit together. I mean, we're still getting good product here, but I want there to be, have the feels of classic. I mean, I'm sorry I'm going off on tangents here, man, but I just thought of Coco and how great that movie was last year. And then, so the hype train is building up again with Pixar. Let's get the right environment, the right creators in there. Continue on this streak. Do not fuck up Toy Story 4. Please do not. You had a perfect trilogy. If you do something bad with this next film, it is all on you, and you've shit over the legacy of something fantastic. Speaking of, they just opened up a new Toy Story Land in Disney World, and Pixar Pier is now open at Disney California Adventures. So plugs for Disney there, and I'm looking forward to checking that out. But new and exciting stuff from Pixar, and definitely a new creative leave on the way. So I'm looking forward to all that we have in the coming years from Pixar, with a new change of direction and new leadership. So looking forward to it. Brad Bird, fucking aces, man, on Incredibles 2. Fantastic film. I can't wait to watch it 100,000 times. All right. Sorry, I don't mean to sound so defeated. But we are here to talk about Universal Studios, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. It is so bad. This movie is atrocious. It is a dumpster fire. I am shocked at how horrible it was. And I know what you might be thinking, like, why are you shocked at the quality of this film? Jurassic World, it was okay. It's not a great film. It's a mediocre reboot of the original film, essentially, even though it's like technically in the same world and whatnot. It's kind of like how a lot of people feel about Force Awakens. I love Force Awakens. I think it's fucking great. Shut your mouth. It's good. Jurassic World, though, was entertaining. It was way over the top. It took like Steven Spielberg's blockbuster approach of Jurassic Park, but they took some of the horror elements out, and they used a lot of CG dinosaurs, and I didn't like that. There was a little bit of practicality to it, but the thing I love about Jurassic Park was the animatronics were great. You really felt like you're looking at dinosaurs. This new series of films, which is gonna keep going because this new shitty one made a ton of money too, but man, dude, the dinosaurs are so fake. And I know that's a silly thing to complain about, but in this one, Fallen Kingdom, I swear to God, there was not a single practical dinosaur. They all look fake. Like the main raptor Blue from the first one and this one, I mean, it's just like, did they even try to make him look like a realistic creature? Like, it just looks like just pure CGI vomit all over the screen, like, constantly. And I can't get into this movie without doing spoilers, so foregone conclusion right now, I'm going to talk about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and I'm going to spoil this one, because I cannot talk about this shit show without talking about the absurdities of what they have done to blow my mind, and why I went into a film, a sequel to a movie that I didn't really like, had low expectations, the bar was really short, and somehow it came. They nosedived and just went completely underneath the bar and gave me something that just literally blew my mind into the absurdity of how this was put on screen, and people are paying millions and millions and millions of dollars for this shit. So let's get into it. From here on out, spoilers. Let me talk about the biggest travesty of them all, which seems stupid, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because it's what hooked me to see the film. Jeff fucking Goldblum, dude. Jeff Goldblum is in this movie for less than a minute. That is not an exaggeration. He is in this movie for like 45 seconds. What you see in the trailers for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom of Jeff Goldblum at the courthouse, talking, giving the speech, like, welcome to Jurassic World. That is the entirety of his performance in this film. It is a literal cameo. He is in the film for the first 10 seconds talking. He is in the bookend of the film for another 20 to 30 seconds. That is the entirety of one Dr. Ian Malcolm in this film. What a waste. What some bullshit. He is solely there to be inserted into the trailers to get people hyped to see Jurassic World 2. They're like, oh shit, we're going to get ready for this. No, wrong. There is no Goldblum in this. He was travesty wasted here. What a joke. This is like, it's arguably worse than when they decided to make a shitty remake of Ghostbusters, and they brought the surviving members of the Ghostbusters, and they had Dan Aykroyd as a cab driver. They had Ernie Hudson as a limo driver for like 5 seconds, and they fucking killed Bill Murray. Like that's what happened. That's what happened in the atrocious Ghostbusters reboot. This is worse. This is worse fan service than that, and that's saying something. Let's get into the actual film. I love Chris Pratt. I'm a huge Parks and Rec fan, and he's got so much charm and charisma. Not in these movies, man. His character, Owen, is a douchebag. He's boring as shit. He's got the worst one-liners, man. I swear, this was Owen written for Bruce Willis? Because Bruce Willis has better one-liners in his recent outings than every line of dialogue that Owen has in this film. Like I swear to God, the first like 10 minutes, that he was on screen, like everything he would say, I would just be like gasping at how horrendously bad it was, or how bland it was. It was just like there was no effort at all put into this. His chemistry with Bryce Dallas Howard, I don't even remember her character's name. She's not running heels in this one, thank God. But still, I mean, there's just no chemistry, and there's just, it's just not a fun duo. And they brought in some new characters, like a comic relief, and none of the new characters vibed with me, man. It was just a CGI fest of not fun shit. Now let's get into the real deep, heavy spoiler stuff. The shit that really blew my mind. Movie starts off really boring. It starts off, you get 10 seconds of Jeff Goldblum, then it goes into, it looks like a recreation of the opening of Titanic when Bill Paxton is in that like submarine machine going in and checking out the ship. It's like that, but if you didn't get to see any cool underwater footage, you're just seeing like a barely lit vehicle underwater with some no-name actors, and it was just, I was already... Disclaimer, I fall asleep during movies a lot. I'm notorious for it. I fall asleep during the third act. I fall asleep during movies that I love. I fall asleep during Marvel movies, DC movies, dramas, comedies, you name it, man. If I'm seeing a movie past 7 o'clock at night time, I guarantee you I will fall asleep very briefly during the third act. It's mostly just dozing. Like, I'll just doze. Like, my eyes will start to close because I'm really tired and I've had a drink or so. And I'm just tired. I'm constantly falling asleep during movies. This movie, I shit you not, 15 minutes into the movie, I'm dozing off constantly for the entirety of the film. And you're probably saying, oh, well, you probably don't have a good grasp of what happened in the movie. If you feel like, no, I knew what happened. It was just incredibly boring. And when I did wake up, the shit that I was comprehending, because they were slacking it on there, man, it was absurd. So they take the dinosaurs. You see it in the trailers, you know, there's a volcano, they're going to save the dinosaurs, whatever. Oh, we've been tricked. They're not actually trying to save dinosaurs. Well, they save them, but they're putting them up on auction. And like this weird black market, you know, auction at some mansion in the middle of nowhere. And they got all these dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs are selling for like $5 million. It's just like really weird stuff, and they have invented another one. It's called like the Indoraptor or something. I don't even remember the features of this creature, to be honest with you. It was pretty forgettable. It's like the last one they had the Indominus Rex. This one is a raptor, and they do their best to try and recreate the dope raptor scene from the original film with the kids. You know, it's really tense, and they bring back those horror elements. And I will say the one thing that they did in this movie that they tried to do on an entertaining scale was they brought the fucking gore, man. They brought the, like, really visceral deaths from these dinosaurs. And I thought that was the one thing that they probably did decently. Let's get into the crazy shit. So they retcon some things, and now out of nowhere, Richard Attenborough, I forget his character's name, the dude with who looks like Colonel Sanders in the first movie. He now apparently had a mysterious partner who helped him build the park, and they had a falling out of some sort. And we meet this guy in this movie. He's a different billionaire guy who was his partner, but they broke off their partnership, and he wasn't a part of the park, but he has some seed into it. Anyway, he's about genetics or whatever, and he's got this creepy little girl that runs around the mansion. And, okay, really gonna get deep spoilers here now. I don't remember most of the movie. It was really boring, and it was just, like, shitty dialogue and just bad CG, and just, that was about it. The part where I really woke up and I stopped dozing every, like, 5 minutes or so was when they revealed that the creepy little girl who was doing, like, ninja kicks and shit around the house is a clone of this old man's daughter who's been dead for a while. So now, and I know that's a silly thing to bitch about, but it's like we've gone from taking blood out of a mosquito that was fossilized in tree sap and recreating dinosaurs just from that. And now it's gone to, now we're recreating humans somehow with DNA. So that's where this franchise has gone now. There's a little girl clone. And at that point, I threw my arms up in the air in the theater. I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? The little girl is a clone in this franchise. Holy shit. Do not see this movie if you didn't care about getting spoiled and you listen to this and you haven't seen it. Yeah, don't waste your fucking time. It's Looney Tunes, man. It's crazy. And you may say, like, oh, well, that sounds just so crazy that I'm going to check it out. It's not an entertaining crazy. It's just like a what the fuck. The dinosaurs are starting to escape towards the end, and they're in like a warehouse type deal, and there's like a gas chamber, essentially, that they're going to kill all these dinosaurs. Because, this is the 5th fucking movie in this franchise, and we're like, hey, don't bring back dinosaurs. Bad shit happens every single time. And so Bryce Dallas Howard's going to let all these dinosaurs die, and then they don't hit the button to release them or whatever. It's just like, fuck it, I'm going to let them die. It's the right thing to do. Turn around, little clone girl hits the fucking button and lets them out of the thing. And then my mind is blown again at the laziness of A, these characters, and B, this screenwriting. It's just a joke. So now these dinosaurs are released because the crazy clone girl had released them, and now the movie ends on an interesting note because it's what we've actually wanted to see this whole time. Was now we're actually getting a Jurassic World where the dinosaurs are going out into public. So you've got some interesting ideas where you go for the sequel for this, but that's 2 bad movies, 2 for 2 on the shit scale of this new franchise, and I don't know. I have no faith in it. But I mean, they've got a lot of cool stuff to play with on the next film, but you've lost me, man. This franchise just ain't worth it, man. I will say, bring back Jeff Goldblum in the third. Bring back Jeff Goldblum. Give him something to do. At the very least, you would just have people just like cashing out money just to see Ian Malcolm actually do something again. Don't make Chris Pratt a douchebag. Chris Pratt is supposed to be funny. Do not make him a lame ass. So, I'm still blown away at how fucking terrible this movie is. I hate it. See it for yourself if you want to, but it's just lame as fuck. It just ain't worth it. Dinos, let them go extinct, baby. Well, thank you for checking out the podcast, episode 3 of the Intellectual Tea Party podcast. If you're watching it online or if you're listening to it on your devices, thank you for joining. I've got a lot of new content coming on the way on the YouTube and Facebook page. I'll be doing a new Lego time-lapse video of the out-of-production Lego Ideas Beatles Yellow Submarine. So you will get a really fucking cool build time-lapse of that pretty soon. I love doing those videos. So we're going to do another one of those in the coming week for that. And then we'll have new episodes of the podcast with some exciting new guest hosts coming right down the pipeline. So thank you for joining, everybody. Please subscribe on Podbean, on iTunes, and on Google Play, and YouTube, and Facebook. I've got content up the ass, man. Go on Twitter. Go on Instagram. I got shit for you everywhere. I've got all the bases covered. You have no excuse. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And we've got something new every single time. So thanks for joining, and have a good day.